many of the hardest hilly marathons I ran outside of here.
We do all the running inside the prison, where we have laid out a quarter-mile loop
with 6 90-degree turns.
It's not easy running around in one circle 105 times.
I ran 2 marathons while I was there. I came in there with a $25 life sentence. Running, was a very large part of me being back out here.
One thing living in Marin County, having San Quentin right here, I drive by it, I work in the East Bay. It's this very visible thing, but it's actually very invisible in other ways about the whole world and life inside the walls of San Quentin.
I've been a registered Republican all my life. Over the years, I've become a little bit more attuned into our current prison system. I'm frankly pretty appalled when I read that the United States has 5% of the world's population and 25% of the prison population.
He's played an important part in my rehabilitation.
Frank sees that you're willing to help yourself and you're willing to do the right things. He's just going to be there for you.
Well, I just feel like I am my brother's keeper. That if he needs help, I'm going to try to help him. And I feel like these guys over there, they need help. And they appreciate whatever help they get.
Get the lights. At this time, I want to introduce the coaches for the 1,000 Mile Club. The head coach is Frank Ruona. Maybe you want to just stand in front of the screen here, Frank. And we will... Yeah, let's try to get this right. Actually, maybe you want to just stand in front of the screen, Frank, if that's...
I have a question.
Oh, wait. There. And assistant coach Kevin Rumon. And assistant coach Diana Fitzpatrick. Community volunteers Dylan Bowman and Jim Maloney.
And me! And me, I want to be a volunteer.
My name is Christine Yu. I'm directing a documentary film about the 1,000 Mile Club called the San Quentin Marathon. And I first heard about the 1,000 Mile Club via an article in GQ magazine. And shortly thereafter, I had contacted Frank and just became very intrigued with the topic and the people involved. And before I forget, too, I also want to introduce Alton McSween here, who was a member of the 1,000 Mile Club. You want to stand up? And, all of these people here that are standing before you are veteran marathoners, ultra runners who've just have really taken their passion for the sport and are really sharing it with some of the people in the world that need it the most, I guess. And I just want to really turn the floor over to you guys and with questions. Anybody want to start out, or? Yeah, what?
How does it feel to run 1,000 miles?
Well, 1,000 miles, a lot of these guys run 1,000 miles over 1 year. And that was one of the original goals, was to try to run 1,000 miles while they were in prison. And some of them have gotten up to 10,000.
Oh, maybe we just want to start out a little bit with what is the 1,000 Mile Club and how did it start and how you got involved.
Back in 2003, I got contacted by Bowman, who was then a teacher at San Quentin and then became an administrator there, administering a lot of the volunteer programs. She said she wanted to get somebody out to coach a running club at San Quentin, and at the time I was the president of the Tamalpa Running Club in Marin. So I sent out an email, mass email to the club asking if anybody had any interest in coaching a running club at San Quentin, and got no responses. So I told Laura I'd come over and give it a try. So in April of 2005, I went over there, and I've been there for almost 12 years now. And over the years, it's become a larger group of inmates that we have participating, and the guys, I think, have gotten more serious, and as getting more serious, they're running. A lot of them are running better, and we've got a couple of them who are pretty good runners.
How often do you meet?
We have workouts every other Monday, so twice a month. And we have a running event almost every month. I think this year we've got 9 running events, which we run on Fridays, so about once a month. And then I typically go in on Fridays when I'm around and just do an informal workout with the guys. So I would say I'm typically there 4 or 5 times a month, and the rest of the group maybe 3 times a month.
I got a question. How do, as far as training goes for the athletes inside the walls, how do they, if you're only going once every 2 weeks, how do they train? What type of time do they have training? So you can't just obviously.
They do training on their own, and they do as a group. We had one of the inmates from the start was a fellow by the name of Ralph Liggins, and he was a national class sprinter. He actually, we get Eddie Hart, and I don't know whether any of you know who Eddie Hart is, but Eddie Hart was the world record holder in the 100 meters in 1972. And he and Ralph Liggins roomed together at Eugene, University of Oregon, for the Olympic trials that year. Eddie wound up going to the Munich Olympics, and he's going to be putting out a book here shortly. His story is kind of a sad story, but he's taken it well. The assistant coach got him the wrong time for his starting heat, so he never was able to run the 100 meters because he didn't get to his heat. And he ran the anchor leg on the 4x100 and won the gold medal there. So he comes in about once a year when we do a track meet, and he brings his gold medal in, and he's a pretty impressive guy. He's been a coach, and he's got a foundation in the East Bay. But anyway, he and Ralph were high school buddies, and so Ralph kind of got us into doing some of the track meet type stuff. But we got into the marathon. We had done a 2-hour run, and we had a fellow by the name of Ronnie Goodman. And you guys, if you're in San Francisco, you may have heard of Ronnie Goodman, because he's an artist, and he's gotten a fair amount of publicity. And he wanted to run a marathon. And the first 2 marathons we had in there, we had one finisher, and that was Ronnie Goodman. So we've gone from there. Yes, sir.
How can you run a marathon in jail?
Well, we have a exercise yard that has a baseball field. It's got a tennis court. It's got a basketball court, and we have measured a 1/4-mile course through there. And in order to run a marathon, the inmates have to run 105 laps around the exercise yard.
I'd be interested to know what each of you would like to see come out of the production of a documentary about the 1,000 Mile Club.
Oh, thanks. I mean, we have been focused on our stuff in one prison in our community, and I think what this represents is an opportunity to take the momentum that we have and what we've learned, and the publicity that Christine is bringing us, and potentially taking this to other prisons without us having to actually travel there, to have sort of a template and an approach that is proven. And then the other thing I'd like to see us expand is some of the opportunities for guys who are released to maintain that running continuity and keep the inertia going and the healthy habits that came from running in prison outside.
I guess for me, one benefit of something like this is just to humanize people who are inside San Quentin, and to tell the story that these are people who have goals and dreams and ambitions and really aren't that different than all of us. And the marathon really encapsulates that. And it's really a wonderful thing to see people put that out there and accomplish that.
Yeah, I'd like to see the film kind of discuss how running has kind of transformed these inmates, and how it's really become a integral part of their rehabilitation. And it's just how it's shown how these guys can have really set goals and have met them, and they've really realized through running that they can achieve things that they never thought they could. And I'd also like it to sort of reflect the humanity, the stories of these individual inmates that are in the club, and show them as human beings and kind of what their stories are. That would be.
I just think I'd like to see the story told in general. I think it's a great story of a lot of normal human beings who have at one point in their life made a bad decision and are paying the price for it, but are no less human as a result. And running has given me so much, and I love the sport, and to see how it can be used in a redemptive, rehabilitative way, like Jim was saying, I think is a powerful message, for the whole worldwide sort of running community. So.
Yes.
So for those of you.
Wait, I want to. Yeah, wait. What about Alton?
Oh, you forgot college.
Yeah. You have to stand up here. You have to stand up here. That's why. Yeah.
For me, I like to, to reiterate what everybody has said, and that's to show that people that are incarcerated can change, have goals. Running is very discipline, a lot of discipline. You set goals. I was never a distance runner. I ran track in college and was more of a football player, but I know personally running, when you're in that yard running, while you're running laps, you're not in prison anymore. You're in your own little world. And your mind gets clear. You can think out things and plan stuff. And with the running club, these guys are so great, and ladies are so great. The camaraderie between the guys. That marathon is really tough. I know when I was running, I had guys that weren't even in the club, in the yard, running laps with me to help me out. And guys pull for each other and root for each other, and everybody it's something to look forward to when these guys come in. Like when I first got involved with the 1,000 Mile Club, I couldn't attend any of the Monday workouts because I was part of another group that I was doing. So I came and asked Frank, is it okay to run in the events? And he said, sure. And so right away you feel welcome, and it's just a good group of guys. And what's really unique now, we have 4 guys that ran inside, and Frank has gotten us to run some races outside. And we have another guy coming home in about 3 weeks. Hopefully he'll be running, and it's going to be neat to run. I know I used to be in the yard at San Quentin, and I'd look up at Mount Tam. I said, one day I'm going to go out there and run, and lo and behold, I got to go out there and run. But yeah.
And you didn't answer the question, right? Everybody else answered it, not you.
Well, I feel any publicity we can get is good publicity. Hopefully people will see that. When I went out there to start coaching, I looked at the runners at San Quentin the same as the runners that I coach on Tuesday nights at San Rafael High School track for the Tamalpa, and I gave them similar workouts, and I tried to treat them the same way I treat runners on the outside. And I try to treat them with respect, and they in turn treat us with respect. And I think there's a lot of got a lot of good camaraderie between us and the guys in the club.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of just answered it a little bit. I was going to say, as an outside of the prison coach and as an inside of the prison coach, what do you see as like maybe the biggest similarity in coaching? What do you see as the biggest difference?
There isn't a heck of a lot of difference.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't get the opportunity to go out and run on the trails on Mount Tam and that type of thing. But I don't know how many of you know of Ed Whitlock. Yeah. Ed Whitlock just died at age 86. And from his mid-60s on, he was the greatest age group distance runner in the world. And I was reading the article on him, he ran all of his workouts on a loop around the cemetery next to his house. And when I go in next time and talk to the guys at San Quentin, I'm going to say, you guys, complain about just running one loop all the time. I said, Ed Whitlock did it, and he was the greatest age group distance runner in the world. So, I mean, a lot of it's right there in the head. And a lot of these guys, they get in a zone, and they're just like runners on the outside.
How many inmates are there, and how do they find out about the club, and is there a lot of attrition, or do most of them stick with it, or?
Well, right now we've got 50-some on the roster, and it's evident, the running club's there, and we have running events, and we get guys to join, every maybe third or fourth race, there's a couple of new guys that give it a try. And, some of them stick with it. Some of them run a race or two and you don't see them again. So.
But there have been some that have been part of the club for the 10 years or
12
since
years.
I've been there.
Yeah, there's some guys that have been there.
There's probably
before.
15 that have been there consistently from the beginning.
What kind of athletic experience and level are a lot of these people at? Like this gentleman was just saying that he ran track and played football. And are you finding people like finally have this athletic outlet they haven't had? Or are you finding people that are trying something new because they just need something new to try to help them through that experience?
It's both. It's both. I would say that there's more guys who are taking up running for the first time than there are guys who have experience running. But we've got a few guys. The guy who's our top runner right now, and he's a very good runner. He ran cross country and track at San Mateo High School, and he's got, you know, he had the goal of breaking 3 hours in the marathon this last year, and he didn't do it, but he's got the ability that I think he has a good chance of doing it this year.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, we heard a little bit how you got involved. I want to hear how the rest of you all got involved in the club.
Really introduce Mary Churchill here. Mary and Mark McManus came out with me the first few years, and then when Mary had her daughter and stopped coming, she told Diana, I guess, and Diana and Kevin started coming, and they've been there for how many years now?
I think it's almost 10. Yeah.
Okay. And then Dylan.
I heard from Diana. No, but I intended, I sent Frank an email. Well, Diana connected me and intended to maybe go, you know, once or twice. And it takes 2 months to get through the background check and gate clearance process to be approved to go in. And, you know, I was a little nervous to go in, you know, for the first time. And went a second time and then started going consistently. And now it's a really important and cool thing, a cool part of my life that I look forward to every other Monday and, you know, whenever we have races. So I've been part of it now for maybe 2 years. And, yeah, I heard about it through, I think actually Mary told me that Diana did it. So.
Jim, you heard about it.
I heard about Dylan. Yeah, Dylan's a stud runner, an ultra runner, and he was running the North Face Challenge a couple of years ago. And his race was on a Saturday, and mine was on a Sunday. And usually you come on Sunday, but this year you didn't. So I was just curious how you did. So I went on your Facebook page, and there was an article, I guess, an interview with North Face, and you talked about how you did in the run, and then some of the other things you're involved in, and mentioned you were involved in this running club at San Quentin Prison, and I just thought, wow, that is interesting, and it kind of stuck with me. So a few days later, it just my curiosity got the best of me, and I messaged him and said, what is this running club at San Quentin you're involved in? And he told me all about it. He said, I get more out of it than the inmates do, and I said, well, how do I sign up? So one thing led to another, and I was in touch with Frank and went through this process, and I agree. It's I get as much out of it or more than the inmates, and they sure appreciate us coming. They tell us every time we're there, but it's been fabulous.
How about you? How did you get involved?
I used to see these guys running all the time. That's it. And you know, I saw Frank, and I started seeing the guys with the 1,000 Mile Club hats and whatnot, and I was real interested in it. Like I said, I'd never been a distance runner before. I was a sprinter in college, and wanted to get involved. And you know, I thought this would be cool to go out and run in these races and challenge myself, see what I could do. You know, see what the old man could do. And right away, when I got out there, you're welcomed by everybody. Everybody helps you out, talks you through things. Frank and the volunteers are great. You know, they come in, and I've always had that competitive nature. Like me and Lady Amy were talking earlier, a lot of times I'm running, I got to remember, okay, you're just competing against yourself, but it's tough when all these youngsters are just lapping, you know. You're on your 80th lap of the marathon, and guys have been done for an hour, you know, but they're still out there rooting for you. But it was really a fun group to be part of. You look forward to running with each other. When we work out on our own, it's quite common. You'll see 2 or 3 guys from the 1,000 Mile Club running laps together out there.
What makes it different to do running in prison as opposed to other sports? Team sports, or what is it specifically about running, you think?
Even though running is individual, you still have that team attitude because you want to, you pull for each other and whatnot. That's a hard one to say. I know I can only speak for myself. Like I said, I'm very competitive, and I compete with myself, and there's certain goals I have. If I don't meet them, I'm not real happy in it, but it just makes me work a little harder. I'm at the age now I realize Father Time is catching up, so the goals change. But I think the number one thing for me with the running while I was incarcerated was getting out there and running. I put my headphones on, and I wasn't locked up. I was in my own little world for a while. You know, for those 2 or 3 hours, I'm not in prison. I'm in my own little world, and that's what I liked about it the most.
I mean, you guys are all volunteers, and you know, you can choose to spend your time, your volunteer or free time, in any number of causes. There's a lot of certainly worthy issues out there. I mean, why help people in prison? What is so important about helping people who are incarcerated, or what have you learned from this process?
Well, like I said, running has given me so much, and really helped to enhance and improve my life in a number of different ways. And initially it was more of just a curiosity of, being involved in the club and seeing what it was about when I initially got in touch with Diana. And that has since morphed into appreciation of the universality of running and of striving for things and for constantly trying to improve yourself, whether it's to get faster at the marathon or to be a more patient person at home with your significant other. And running is sort of a microcosm of a lot of different things, and I think that's why people are so attracted to it. And there was a question about what's different, from running on the outside and running on the inside, and the answer really is nothing, right? Because it's the same feeling when these guys get together and that when we get together with them as I have when I get together with my friends on the outside for our group runs, And so, I mean, the reason I stick with it is because it's given me a lot, and it's not hard for me to get there. It's not inconvenient. I have the flexibility and the motivation to do it, and it gives me a lot of satisfaction. Yeah.
A few of you said that you get as much from the guys inside as you give them. Could you say a little more about that? What do you get from them inside?
Perspective for how fortunate we are. Like every time you walk in there and walk back out, it's like when you travel another country and you get a chance to experience something else, when you come back here, no matter how crappy things might seem here, we're really, really lucky. Right? We're really fortunate. Every time that plane lands, excuse me, in SFO, I'm happy. Right? Like the world may be incredibly screwed up, and we may bitch about a lot of stuff, but it's pretty trivial. But we all have our freedom, and we've all had difficult things happen to us, whether it's loss of family member, health issues, or something. But all of those are inconsequential to me compared to my freedom. And you know, we talk about incarceration a lot, but it's really just a loss of freedom. And I having to visit places where people don't have their freedom, so, or the things that we have, or a full meal every dinner, every day. So.
How about you, Frank?
We have developed these really strong relationships, and so it means a lot to them, and it means a lot to us, I think, to go in and to have that.
Yeah, I echo the exact same thing. I think I went in, I just enjoy running, and I see how transformative running has been for my life and helping me to set goals. And since I've been in there, I've felt like I've developed relationships with various runners. I know there's one gentleman, Tommy, who has lost 50 pounds since October just through running, through coming out. He said, I want to do this just to get healthy. And wow, he lifted up his shirt about a month ago and he saw the 6-pack abs. And, holy cow. But there's all kinds of stories like that of individuals who have just reached goals that they've never thought they would, and it's really powerful, and it's neat to be sort of a part of that. And as Diana said, and everybody said, they're just so appreciative, and we're kind of their contact, or one of their contacts with the outside world, and they really appreciate that, us, and it's developed a real good camaraderie between all of us.
Any last one?
I was wondering, do you think that the effects of what you guys have done would be different if it was for like a juvenile prison, or a female prison, a private prison, anything like that? Do you think it would be different, or do you think it would be the same, or would you do things differently?
The older guys are easier. I mean, they have the benefit of hindsight and the ability to evaluate their lives, and they realize that a lot of things that people do as young men are really kind of foolish and silly and stupid, and you realize that the gang thing just kind of doesn't work very well, long term, and this fills in for families and different things. People need a group, but it's a lot of it's easier with older guys to get, who have that better perspective on life. We meet guys like Coach, Alton, and I wonder, what the hell is this guy doing here? Right? He's nicer than most of my friends, right? So.
A lot about your friends.
Yeah. I didn't say my wife.
I have another question. So you guys were talking a lot about how running has impacted you and setting goals, and how also the relationships between you and the incarcerated runners, and also between the prisoners and the coaches. I'm also curious to know if there's been any shift in dynamic between prisoners among the running group. So, for example, I've seen my exposure to prisons is basically like these movie clips. So I'm totally, in a deficit on that one. But I always see that there's gang structures, or hierarchies, or lots of competition between prisoners for different resources. And I'm curious if the running experience over the years has possibly shifted that dynamic and made the inter-prisoner relationships more nuanced.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff, the way prisons are portrayed on television and movies, unfortunately, is true. San Quentin's really unique. Even though if you go into the yard, as you walk down the long walkway down there, you'll see the black section and the white section, but people talk to each other and intermingle with each other. I was at a prison before I got to San Quentin called Centinela, way down south, and you weren't allowed to walk through another race's, area. It was just ridiculous. I think sports in general really brings races together, not just running, but all sports. It's been my years of coaching high school, junior college football, and whatnot. races mingle, and I think with the 1,000 Mile Club is no different. Different races root for each other and run with each other and cheer with each other. And I think if more, like this film, if it gets out there, more prisons can see that, especially the lower level ones. I think you'll see that shift. Unfortunately, with the level 3s and 4s, there's so much politics. Even though some people might want to change, there's so much peer pressure to not change, for fear of their safety. But San Quentin's very unique in that way.
Following on about the experience of running, you talked about how being able to go out and pop your headphones on for 2 or 3 hours and get out there, there was a liberation involved in that. How much could you run if you so desired on a given day or in a given week? Are you allowed unfettered time to just go run for several hours? Or is it blocked off into segments? How does that work?
I work, so I couldn't, during the week, like Monday through Thursday, I couldn't do the running really. But Friday I didn't work as part of the group, and I had a good thing going with my building officer. After breakfast, I'd go out to the yard and be able to run for a couple hours. And Saturday and Sunday, I'd be able to run. So I did the running in that I needed, and that was okay. That was about enough what I needed, to do what I had to do to get away. Not just to get in shape, but like mentally. Like right now, I use running to really help me out. December 23rd, my kidneys collapsed, and I spent almost 3 weeks in the hospital. And a couple of days after I was admitted, I was talking to the doctor, thinking it was the first day I was admitted. He goes, "I don't know why we're talking. You should be dead." But I guess the good Lord wasn't ready for you yet. So it's my goal is to go out there and run now. I went out and ran a couple miles last week, and I felt like I ran a marathon. But running really is it's just really not just mentally challenging, but it's just refreshing too. It really is. You get done. I get finished, and my head's clear. I can just think about things, and I'm in my own little zone.
I haven't been running in a couple of years until tonight, and just the endorphin kick afterwards, I can totally relate to that.
Well, I just want to thank everybody so much for coming. And if you guys did find this evening interesting, you will definitely, hopefully, find the film that we're going to make interesting as well. I also do want to say we are running a fundraiser right now. We are doing a Kickstarter campaign, so I do hope that you will go to San Quentin Marathon on Kickstarter.com to pledge. We also are offering a special deal tonight on these cool hats that you can also get these here. But really, every pledge, every contribution is going to help. This is a completely independent film. So if you think that this film is worth making and adding your voice to, the power of positive rehabilitation, I hope you will contribute. So I just want to give a round of applause to the 1,000 Mile Club coaches for coming out tonight and donating their time and energy and effort to be here. So thank you also everybody for coming out tonight, and also to Steve Indig, Stephanie Way, Crispy, and all of Louise Zanis, everyone who helped out so generously tonight, and last but not least, A Runner's Mind, who co-sponsored this event for us tonight. Thank you so much. We still have plenty of food and drink and all of that. So
let me make one statement for the club. We've got a website, www.1000mileclub.com, and you can contribute. We're raising funds for the marathon film, but we do have some expenses for the club itself. We purchase shoes, purchase caps for the guys, and if we're part of a 401 or
501c3.
Yeah. Anyway, you can get a tax deductible 401k.
starting a 401k.
We'd appreciate anything there also.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you guys so much.
That was awesome.
Thank you
That was
so
great.
much.
What a good event.
Thanks so much. Oh, hey. Okay.
I did recommend.
Yeah, pretty good.
You guys, are you getting close to your goal?
Oh, you know, I've got a block.
You did?
I'm going to introduce you to our friends, Jamie Austin. Jamie's been cooking for
Good seeing you.
I was wondering if, like,
We're going to meet at 11. All right, so we are signing off. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.